The role between an administrator and executor really is not distinct. It really is a bit of a semantics distinction. Typically, the term executor is used when a person has a will and they're going through probate. If a person has no will, typically the term administrator is used. Both situations require the appointment by the court, and that person has a responsibility basically to manage the assets that belong to the estate. There's what's called the imprudent person or the prudent investor rule. And what that means is that a person has to, if appropriate, invest resources in the same way that a prudent person would. Don't put all your eggs in one basket would be a common theme to that. So if the estate has resources that are not going to be distributed for a period of time, the question is, should they sit in a savings account bearing, a very modest interest rate, or a checking account bearing no interest? Should they be in some kind of a mutual fund or a stock? Well, that varies on a case-by-case basis, and it depends upon what's prudent for that particular estate. The bottom line is that, if you were to take all of the money and buy a high-risk stock, and the company goes belly up and the money's lost, a situation like that, the administrator, the executor, probably would be responsible to the estate for bearing that loss because it wasn't a prudent decision. They have to treat those monies and resources in a way that is in the best interest of those anticipated to receive the distributions of those assets at a later point in time when the administration of the estate is completed. So they have a duty to make sure that all the bills are paid, that there's insurance in place, that the estate is protected from loss as much as is possible. Doesn't mean that they're required to never lose money. A prudent investor can sometimes invest in things and markets go up and markets go down and there's a loss. But the question is whether or not at the time money was invested, it was prudent or not. So administrator/executor has those responsibilities, has a responsibility to distribute things that were set forth in a person's estate plan that may be heirlooms or special things that are going to go to somebody specifically. To have an estate sale perhaps and liquidate all the personal effects. Maybe donate things to charity if they're really not valuable to the estate. Bottom line is to in most cases, turn assets into cash, put the cash in some kind of an investment vehicle until the money's ready to be distributed, pay all the bills, and then distribute everything. That entire process is supervised by the court. The court does want to make sure that everything is done in a reasonable, prudent way. So people can't just hire assistants that are charging exorbitant fees or things. You have to treat the money like it's your own in the context of appropriate savings and cost reduction. Ultimately, the administrator is not generally held personally liable for the business of the estate. But if the administrator is doing something intentionally illegal to cause loss to the estate, or simply by negligence, not giving proper attention to the administration of the estate, then the executor may be responsible for those things. So communication with an attorney is important. Asking questions is essential. Usually at the outset of a case, one of the things my office does is we're going to send a checklist of things that are required of the administrator that they need to do. Some do's and don'ts so that they're aware of that. But part of the essential communication is making sure that if there's a gray area, something unclear, something that needs to be discussed, that the administrator calls me and talks to me about it. One of the mistakes that clients make, not just in probate, but in any case really, is taking action and not having clarity about whether it's an appropriate or inappropriate thing to do. So it's really important that unless there is clarity in advance about what should or shouldn't be done, that people ask questions and get advice about the right way to handle a particular situation before they make a mistake. It's really important because once that mistake is made, it either has to be explained, and there has to be some mercy or forgiveness from a court in understanding why it was made, or it may be too big of a mistake, and there may be consequences that are the result of that, not just to the person who acted, but to others, to the beneficiaries. So again, it's just important to make sure that steps are followed, rules are followed, and people just use common sense.